Hi, hello. I'm Myriam. And if I do this, you have guessed it right. But no, I'm not a flight attendant. But I watched this demo on loop as I was walking the hallways of the Middle East Airline Training Center just a month ago when I received the L'Oréal UNESCO Women for Science Award. Thank you. But this actually got me distressed. I was thinking how hard it would be for me as a mom to put my oxygen mask first with my 3 kids, Laetitia, Christina, and Michael, sitting right next to me. I also thought how hard it is for us as women in general, as wives, daughters, classmates, and colleagues to prioritize ourselves. And what the flight attendant doesn't tell you, but I will, is that this is not selfish. It's a science. I will tell you about this science not only as a woman, but also as a clinical psychologist and a neuroscientist who looks at the brain. In my lab, we look at what happens to women who put their oxygen masks, and our data shows something remarkable. One such woman, we'll call her Layla. I met 3 days after the Beirut port explosion. She walked up to me with a jar of homemade jam. Her hand was bandaged, her home was destroyed, but she had pretty nail polish, typical Lebanese. She said, "This is for you and for the other doctors. You've been working too hard." And what I observed on that day, I had actually studied throughout my academic journey. Women have double the chances of anxiety, double depression, double post-traumatic distress. Now men get a bunch of other things, but that's a story for a different day. Those same trauma-exposed women, if they're given the needed resources, guess what? They double down on resilience, double down on post-traumatic growth, and double down on creativity. So I was curious, how is it that women can hold beauty and the beast all together? And is it the same thing for men? So if I ask you, are men and women different? If we look at genes and physiology, the obvious answer is yes. But what if I told you our brains are also wired different? And this has direct repercussions in psychology and in some social aspects as well. But just as a disclaimer, when I say different, I mean different, not different. I'm not saying who does it best. I'll let you guess. And I'm also sounding maybe too simplistic because I don't want to overly homogenize the very diverse group of women. But this is just to make a long story very, very short. So when scientists compared over 100,000 brain scans, we found the systematic differences between men and women's brain. I'm going to briefly walk you through 3 main important ones. They explain a lot of the advantages, but also some of the challenges we go through. And don't worry, I'll get you quick fixes by the end of this talk. So the first thing is that we found that in women's brain, there's a stronger connection between the left and the right side of our hemispheres. This means we have more brain power to hold this one more task on our endless to-do lists, but it also means that we get to worry more because we're overthinking most of the time. We also have a stronger connection between emotional and rational part of our brains, which means this improves our decision-making process. We commonly call this intuition, and women are typically known, especially mothers, for their 6th sense. But sometimes there's a spillover from emotional to rational brain, and we get to say things like, I feel fat, I feel stupid, or I feel ugly. And we can all agree that fat and ugly and stupid are not feelings, but our brain takes them at face value and it gets us distressed. And I'll show you how to fix that in a minute, how to reset this balance. Second thing is women tend to have larger hypocampuses, This is the part of your brain that encodes memory, and we have more active emotional brain. This means that women are largely more compassionate, more empathetic. When we are happy, we laugh wholeheartedly. Yay! But the downside and the price to pay is we get compassion fatigue. We get burned out from worrying too much and caring for others around us. We also are too sensitive to negative comments and criticism, but don't worry, there's a quick fix for this one as well. And the last one that I want to mention is a higher level of some neurotransmitters in our brains. So we have a larger amount of oxytocin, which is known as the love hormone, and serotonin, which is known as the happy hormone, when we are in social situation. So women have a higher propensity to be around others. We invest more in social connections, and we get a better return on investment. But obviously, the price to pay is that others' opinion about us outweigh our own, and the weight of social expectations and social norms feels different when you're a woman. And there's a fix for this one as well. Now, these brain differences mean that under stress, men and women use different coping mechanisms. In psychology, we say that women tend and befriend, whereas men fight or flight. Tend and befriend versus fight or flight. Let me briefly explain. In crisis situation, women feel the urge, the need to care for younger ones and to care for others, including the elderly. That's the tend part. But we also feel the urge to share emotional news with our BFFs, good grades we get in exams, promotions, pregnancies, or to nag about that breakup and vent. That's the befriend part. Men tend to fight, so they express their emotions by acting aggressively, shouting, screaming, punching. You should see them drive, and I'm sure you do, and scream and honk and swear. Or, on the other end of the spectrum, it's the flight. They move away from emotional discussions, so they can talk for hours about politics, about their favorite sports club, but if you ask them about their days, the best answer you get is, عادي. These brain differences also mean that we socialize differently, we do leadership differently, we do politics differently, and we even cook differently. I'm sure all of you know how women tribe come together to cook for Eid. So it's much more about collaboration and connection than competition for us women. Now that we know that our brains are wired different, that we have different strengths, and they come at a higher price, what is it that we can do to leverage this, to optimize our wellness? And I'm going to share with you 3 yalla challenges, I'm going to call them. The first one is social or focuses on social wellness. This is about establishing social rituals. I know this was probably the de facto reality for most of us before COVID, before the financial breakdown, before the Beirut port explosion, when a lot of our friends left the country, and even before this ongoing genocide, because obviously. But I urge you to prioritize these social rituals with others around you. And I also know we are very limited on time. So I have a wise friend who told me that there's an I in illness and a we in wellness. So the we that works for me is a combo package. Hanging out with mama friends who share similar work-life balance challenges and parenting issues, nature, discovery, movement, coffee, sunshine, bingo. Now, because we get stressed every day, what we can do is share those Instagrammable pictures as screensavers, as profile pictures on our phones, save them as favorites, look at them before you go to bed, and it will actually trick your brain into secreting oxytocin and serotonin in association with a tribe that supports you, that share similar values, and that actually value you. And that's probably what got our ancestors to say, الجنة بلا ناس ما بتندس. So next up is psychological wellness. And this is where we get to talk about personal self-care. Now, I know that personal self-care comes in many different forms, including nail care. But the trick I'm going to share with you actually allows you to overturn your worrying brain, to calm it down and restore the balance between hemispheres. And it's a very simple brain trick. It's called attitude of gratitude. And because we're all very short on time, I'm going to ask you, please, to time me. And when you're ready, just give me a nod. Go. So I'm going to list 5 things that I'm grateful for today. I'll start off with coffee. I'm not a matcha person. I'm also very grateful for our recent family edition. And as much as I love this little dude, I'm very grateful to the one who invented pacifiers. I'm grateful for my job. It gives meaning and purpose to the things I do. And it also allows me to advocate mental health to the community. And although God has given us the worst of neighbors, I'm forever grateful He has given us the prettiest sunsets ever. How long did that take? 37 seconds. I'm sure you can scratch this much time in your day to list the things you're grateful for. It will force your brain to focus on positive stuff. And يا جماعة تفاءلوا بالخير تجدوه. And if you want to amplify this khair, you can go for a small walk on our lovely campuses around your building. And this is where العقل السليم بالجسم السليم. And if you sleep well at night, then what you get is نام بكير وقوم بكير وشوف هالصحة كيف بتصير. Ancestor wisdom works all the way, resets your brain and allows you to function and to optimize functioning. Now, my trick here is it's interesting to find a wellness advocate. My person is my teenage daughter. She's super vocal, even about the few tiny post-pregnancy pounds I managed to hide, and incentivizes me to keep on practicing my wellness routine. Last off is I found a tagline that is not very Lebanese, but works all the way. In a world that takes your breath away, remember to breathe deeply. Now, that's not rocket science much, but it's a science-based approach called cardiac coherence. 5-second inhale, 5-second exhale. We'll practice this in a minute. It allows you to calm this hyperactive emotional brain of yours and sets a synchrony between your heart and your brain. The cherry on top is if you open your smartphones and look into the Apple Store or Google Play Store for controlled breathing or cardiac coherence, you will find a free downloadable app, which you can go ahead and download. It sends you a reminder, because doctor's order on this one is to practice cardiac coherence 3 times a day systematically, morning, noon, night. The physiological calmness that it brings lasts for 6 consecutive hours. And I promise you it's worth it. And so it goes something like this. Inhale for 5 seconds. Exhale for another 5. Inhale for 5 seconds. And then exhale for another 5. Now, if you do this every single day, your brains will thank you. Because our brains are different indeed. They give us immense mental capacity, but then there's a price to pay to properly optimize their functioning with very simple daily routines like hiking, practices of gratitude, and breathing, because your brain is a muscle, and that's a thing you do every day to keep it running. Now, to wrap up, I asked my AI friend to generate a visual image you could take home of Layla. And that's what I got. And I think it's brilliant. So to all the Levantine Laylas out there, your beauty and your brain are your superpowers. Please, I urge you, continue making these delicious apricot jams that taste like hope and resilience. But remember, always put your oxygen mask first. Thank you.